How they making this booty and pussy and cheeky?
Alright, shove it, squad. We've got these talking
Ooh, the spiciness. See, I hear the spiciness?
The worst TNA wrestler of all time. And whilst the man with the mohawk
Random
was
microwave.
terrible, I have to call Tom out on this. He can't get away with it. Tom, you have screwed up so badly here. You are completely wrong. There were loads worse than Jesse Neal. He was just a job guy. He didn't have any major mic time storylines or matches. Have you even watched TNA before? Wes Briscoe, Garrett Bischoff, A1, Anarchia, Tyrus, Chris Melendez, Murphy, Jay Bradley, Chavo Guerrero, David Young. There. That's 10 off the top of my head who are worse than Jesse Neal. Anyway,
Ooh, title fight?
Watching and top 10 wrestling,
Okay.
let me introduce you
Wait,
to the real
okay.
worst TNA wrestler of all time. A terrible haircut, can barely talk, so large that he can barely move. Competed in TNA for 6 years and not a single good match. Was pushed as a monster, and he's so ugly that he ended up having to have his face covered up as to not scare away the audience. This man is Rob Terry, the Welsh Roider. And Tom, you and your opinions can shove it because I'm the king around here. Rob Terry is the worst TNA wrestler of all time. Before we start, I don't want to hear anyone leaving comments saying, he's probably not on steroids. You don't know what you're talking about, Marky. Trust me, I know gym guys. I've been in there for 8 years. I know what I'm talking about more than a lot of people when it comes to this. This guy is roided up to the ass, and he probably shoves them right up there every morning. Now don't get me wrong, you can inject 1 million steroids and still not look like Rob Terry. He obviously worked incredibly hard in the gym, but we're here to talk about his wrestling career, which was terrible by the way. So before you comment, just think about what you're saying. Are you a gym guy? Are you really educated to comment on that? You cannot believe everything you read and hear. Scott Steiner has claimed he does not take steroids. Just let that sink in for a second. There is something called an off cycle for people who take steroids, and that's when these guys compete in competitions and claim not to be on any gear. Rob Terry won the 2017 Natural Mr. Olympia this week. So please, you're just going to look stupid. So shut up or I'll smack you on. Let's get on with it. Rob Terry was in WWE Developmental in 2007, but soon common sense prevailed, and they dropped him from the company. According to Chris Jericho, he wanted to bring Terry up to the main roster in 2008 and have Rob be his protege. Instead, this role was given to Garrison Cage. Rob Terry and Chris Jericho are the complete opposites. One is skinny, one is huge. One is great on the mic, the other is a complete embarrassment who can barely string a coherent sentence together. One is a legend in wrestling, and one
That is
will
bullshit.
be branded by the Hawk as a complete failure, not only in TNA but in life. So because the WWE released him, it didn't take long for TNA to snatch him up, as they do with a lot of WWE releases, whilst achieving varying results. He was initially put with the newly formed British Invasion faction. Poor Douglas Williams, he had a difficult job on his hands, as both Magnus and Rob Terry were pretty new to the wrestling business. TNA obviously had a lot of faith in Williams to entrust him with looking after these two guys, but this isn't a video about him, so shut up or I'll hit you with a brick. Terry was the backup for the British Invasion. He mostly just stood around looking stupid behind them. TNA showed pretty early on that they were interested in trying to make a star out of Rob Terry, as he attacked Hernandez and stole his Feast or Fire briefcase, which entitled the owner to a world title shot. Hernandez was written off TV because of this attack, whilst this big lummox constantly appeared with his briefcase on TV. Magnus and Williams usually did the tag matches, and Terry would just stand on the outside of the ring looking like a gormless moron. Whilst Jesse Neal was bad, TNA fans only had to endure Jesse Neal for 2 years. Rob Terry was featured constantly for 6 years, and there wasn't a single positive thing to say about him during this time. The British Invasion joined the World Elite, and it merged with the Main Event Mafia. Terry was terrible in all his matches, and would usually cause his team to lose, but commentary constantly ignored this fact and talked up what a monster Rob Terry is. Hernandez eventually returned and beat Rob Terry on pay-per-view in 9 seconds, so what was the point? Terry then started a losing streak, because that always gets a wrestler over. Terry would eventually get another briefcase as he won a shot at the X Division title. Terry then won his first and only gold in TNA, as whilst competing in a house show in Wales, he managed to capture the global title, a completely worthless belt. Terry then went after the X Division title, but Douglas Williams forced Terry to hand the shot over to him, and he beat Amazing Red for the X Division title. Rob Terry grew tired of how Magnus Lewis and Williams were treating him, and he turned face and left the British invasion. For the whole of 2010, TNA tried desperately to get this guy over as a face, but nobody wanted to see him in his stupid haircut. They pushed him as an unstoppable monster, and they tried to get over how nuts this guy was by having Homicide hit him square in his big roid head with an unprotected chair shot. This idiot agreed to do it, and he ended up with a concussion because of it, and nobody even remembers it happening, so what was the point? They had him feud with Orlando Jordan next, where Orlando Jordan was in love with Terry, and Orlando Jordan stalked him. They even had a life-size cardboard cutout of Rob Terry. It was completely stupid, and it was uncomfortable viewing, to say the least. Orlando Jordan really pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable in wrestling, and unfortunately the fans couldn't get into it. Eric Bischoff was a massive fan of the guy and thought it would be very popular. Terry continued his winning streak with quick squash matches, but there was never anything interesting going on in his matches. People started to refer to Rob Terry matches as toilet break matches. Or, if you were like me, you continued watching the TNA show and just pissed all over the TV screen when Rob Terry's face appeared. He eventually lost the title to AJ Styles, and we all celebrated as it seemed like the Freak's run was finally over on TV, as his TV time became limited. TNA started using him more and more infrequently, especially when the Immortal storyline started up, and at the end of 2010 he became the bodyguard for Fortune. Yes, that's right. AJ Styles, Bobby Roode, James Storm, Kazarian, and they were guarded by Rob Terry. He continued to be regarded as a joke during his time, and was often just in the background with Gunner and Murphy, who were also regarded as replaceable faction members. They were the grunts, the worst members of Immortal, and nobody cared about them. The only thing Rob Terry was involved with around this time was a mini feud with Scott Steiner over who had the best body. Apart from Steiner being hilarious as usual, this feud did absolutely nothing for Rob Terry. Terry would try to regain the global title, now renamed the TV title, in a three-way match with Gunner and Murphy. I bet this match moved the needle in 2011. Anyway, unsurprisingly, Rob Terry was unsuccessful here after Gunner managed to beat the man called Murphy. Not long after this, the two least liked members of Immortal were put in a match against each other, with the loser of the match having to leave Immortal. It was Rob Terry versus Murphy. Rob Terry did manage to win the match, but after the match, Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff threw both men under the bus.
It was bad, bro, bad. I'm done with both these guys. I am totally done. They're fighting for a spot in Immortal? Are you kidding me? Let's get serious.
Murphy was fired for losing this match, and it seemed like Rob Terry's time would be up soon too, as he was kicked out of Immortal. So it looked like Rob Terry is pretty much done with TNA at this point. Well, I've got some bad news for you. There's 4 more years of him left to cover. Jesus Christ. Did this guy not have any self-respect? He knew he was terrible. How could he sleep at night knowing what a failure he was? Then he was invited to team with Robbie E. You thought he was bad before? You ain't seen nothing yet. Robbie E, a man who could potentially make a worse TNA wrestlers list, was now teamed up with someone even worse than he was. How often in wrestling are two wrestlers who are so bad teamed together? Rob Terry was then renamed to be Robbie T, so it fitted in better with the Jersey Shore stuff that was going on at the time in TNA. He was mostly more of a bouncer than a teammate for Robbie E. Finally, something more suitable for this guy. Just stand still, shut your mouth, and pretend you're a tree. Next up, we enter what I call the Devon days. This was a period of time where the Robbies consistently competed against Devon Dudley, week after week, and they lost every single time for the TV title. Sounds like fun? Well, it's not. They faced each other at least 10 times during this period, and guess what? Every single match was a snooze fest. I'm surprised my TV still works after the amount of snooze fest matches I had to put up with. Who kept booking this? I genuinely want to know who thought this was a good idea. I have never seen a match repeated so many times in such a short space of time and have the same terrible outcome each time. As much as people hated this team, there was one good aspect, but unfortunately it was kept online. They did a web show called The List, where they interviewed guest wrestlers to see if they could get on Robbie E's list. Yes, you heard me right, Chris Jericho stole his gimmick from Robbie E. Robbie E did the interviews and Rob Terry just stood around pulling faces and playing the straight man to Robbie E's comedy goofball routine. It was genuinely good and might have helped to get the team over, but it never made it to TV. Even if you don't like these guys, it's not a bad watch even today. Robbie E eventually grew jealous of Rob Terry. Rob Terry started doing a goofy dance dance after his matches whenever he won, which wasn't very often, by the way. The audience actually seemed to quite like it. He also pulled grotesque mucker, but this was never explained. Robbie E would look so annoyed whenever Terry danced. His face would vibrate with anger like he was going to have a stroke. If Robbie E is aspiring to be as good as Rob Terry, he's not going to go very far in the WWE. Robbie E turned on him and then Terry beat him in 2 matches and it was over after 2 years together. Good. Now can someone please, I'm begging you for the love of God, fire Rob Terry. Please see sense. This experiment has not worked. He moves in slow motion in the ring. He is absolutely shocking and common sense has to prevail here. Terry was sent to OVW to improve his wrestling skills. He had been competing regularly for 3 years at this point. Because OVW was TNA's developmental territory, everyone forgot Rob Terry existed, and the show improved without him. In 2014, weird segments started to play on the TNA show, with Mike Nux talking to some chick called Rebel. Their carnival had been damaged by floods. I think Nux and Rebel were supposed to be a couple. Nux said that he was bringing the freaking Crazy Steve to TNA to help them.
Crazy Steve?
No. We're not Crazy Steve. He's crazy. And the thing absolutely freaking not. No.
And the plan was to earn money for their struggling carnival. And they made quite an impression on their debut. They went all out with this thing. People on stilts, crazy music, Rebel doing acrobatic stuff, balloons, and oh, for God. I know who this masked man is. It's Rob Terry, isn't it? This faction seemed okay, but now it's gone downhill, and the bad memories are starting to come flooding back. Rob Terry was supposed to be the strong man of the group, and he bent thin bars around his body. They did not acknowledge that it was Rob Terry under the mask. Rob Terry and Nux usually competed as a tag team together, but they were just complete losers. TNA quickly scaled back the menagerie, and soon the guys on the stilts were gone, along with the elaborate entrance. They actually put a lot of effort in it to begin with. They came up with a backstory and a faction for Nux. They gave them the extravagant entrance, and then they just ended it after a couple of months. Didn't give the team a push at all. The menagerie could have been like a modern-day oddities, but instead we were all just left wondering what was the point. Rob Terry's final TNA match was on Explosion towards the end of 2014, as he ironically lost to Magnus, a man who he debuted with by teaming up in the British Invasion. An update on the whereabouts of Rob Terry. He was actually still wrestling on the Independents until last year, but I think his bodybuilding content was his priority. He doesn't look like he's coming back to Wales anytime soon, you'll be pleased to know, and he'll be staying in the US for good. You guys can keep him. With God's County just over the bridge, we didn't want him anywhere near us. Alright, just a quick message to some of you who might be slightly concerned that this is going down a path that you don't want to see. I'm absolutely cool with Top 10 Wrestling. The dude's a legit Hawkamaniac. There's no beef here. This isn't like a year ago when our channels came to blows. So this is just a friendly warning, Tom. No more videos and do not send back to this one. You know how much is riding on this. It is not worth you doing it. Because when it comes down to me and you, there's only one winner. The Hawk done job to nobody. It's me, Mark. Okay then, it's the 5th of April 2010 and it's Raw vs TNA. TNA got destroyed in the ratings last week, so Spike TV has decided that they're starting the show an hour earlier this week. Luckily I've got both shows recorded. I can still watch them head to head. Tonight I was still crossing my fingers that Eric Bischoff doesn't appear much on the show, because I've agreed to do a shot every time he appeared on the screen. Last week he appeared on the telly for 11 minutes in total all over the show, and it was terrible. Well, guess what? It turns out he's not actually on the show this week. I'm not going to let myself off that easily though. I'm going to do a shot every time. So wish me luck. The TNA show starts out this week with Christy Hemme talking about the TNA Lockbox Challenge that's happening later on tonight. All the knockouts will be competing to win. The prizes up for grabs tonight will be the TNA Knockouts Championship, Tara Spider, having to do a striptease, and an open contract to fight whichever knockout they want to do. Wow, someone can win the TNA Knockouts title in a lucky draw from a box. Great, I'm drinking already. The beautiful people said they're going to win all the boxes, and Lacey Von Erich said she's still looking forward to having to do a striptease later on. Oh god, now Hulk Hogan's music hits as you stupid that happens around him. I have to admit, I'm quite happy that I'm safe this week. Without Eric Bischoff on the show, I won't have to drink as much. Hogan comes out to hype that at Lockdown it'll be Team Hogan taking on Team Flair in a cage match. Jeff Jarrett was added to Team Hogan last week. The commentary team say Eric Bischoff will not be here tonight. Pretty good promo by Abyss, to be fair. This brings Ric Flair out to the ringside, who's in his pushchair as usual with Chelsea. He's then joined by Desmond Wolf, Sting and Veer Money. What a random group of wrestlers together. I guess this is going to be Flair's team at Lockdown. Flair brags about how good his team members are. He then brings up his Hall of Fame ring, makes fun of Abyss for how good Hogan's Hall of Fame ring. Hogan says they'll be finding out the other team members tonight. Flair's face is so red here, he looks like a squashed tomato. Jeff Jarrett then asks Sting to step into the ring and answers questions. Jarrett asks Sting Swagger's been the champion for 2 minutes, he's already in with a lead joke. Let's get back to drinking. Back on TNA, Tara is sulking because her belt and her spider are both on the line in the match tonight. And to be honest, it is stupid and a bit unfair on her. Angelina then butts in and says that she'll win tonight. ODB then butts in and said they've both got PMS and screw the knocked up title. Instead, she wants to win an open contract so she can fight AJ's booty. Commander then shrugs. It seems that she's doing a stereotypical Asian gimmick and can't speak English. That's a drink. The title is on the line next, and it's Homicide challenging Rob Terry. Never have I wanted a man to win a match more than this. I don't think we've seen Homicide on this series since he got stuck trying to climb up the little red cage. Rob Terry throws Homicide around, and Homicide can't do anything to hurt Rob Terry. Rob then press slams Homicide and follows it up with a front power slam for the 3. Rob Terry and his awful haircut are still the TV champions. Drink. After the match, Homicide hits Rob Terry with a steel chair in the back and then smashes him in the face with the steel chair, but nothing happens. Rob Terry then chokeslams him and blood starts to trickle down his head. He's then interrupted. Orlando Jordan's music hits. and he appears in the burlesque mask with cream all over him yet again. It's pointless, and I can't stand it like last week. Ring. Backstage, the beautiful people are acting like porn stars. Apparently this knockouts match is a tag team match. It's Tara, Angelina, ODB and Hamada versus the beautiful people at Daphne. Taz makes fun of Hamada for not speaking English. Madison Rayne beats up on Tara and does her special facebuster. Tara then drags her off the top and nails the Widow's Peak. Tara's won a key and doesn't need to compete in the match anymore, and she rolls out the ring. Then there's an elimination during the advert break because Hamada missed the moonsault and then Daphne hit her with a diamond cutter to score a free and win a key. Taz then starts making fun of WCW pole matches and said, let's put Dave Penzer on a pole. Taz seems to be in an extra humorous mood tonight. Drink. ODB then hits a fall-away slam on Velvet for a 2 count. You know, this might not seem great, but it's mad to think that this is actually better than what the WWE Divas are serving up right now. Velvet then hits a DDT on ODB to pin her for the 3. Lacey and Angelina then start fighting. Lacey tries to go for a moonsault but misses, and then Angelina hits the lights out to pin her for the 3. No surprises there. I guess Lacey won't be getting her wish to do a striptease tonight then. The match is over and they start to show the 4 prizes that are up for grabs. Sounds like they're waiting to the end of the show to reveal who's won what. Apparently the ladder match is up next and the prize reveal will be in the main event instead of the ladder match. Don't ask me why. Back on Raw, Kofi Kingston is coming out. The commentary team say that he's still basking in the glow of WrestleMania. Pretty sure he lost. He's taken on Sheamus, who attacked Triple H last week with a pipe, whilst he was trying to bid farewell to Shawn Michaels. Sheamus with a nice backbreaker that silences the crowd early on. Kofi then fires back with a kick and then a crossbody to wake up the crowd. Then he bounces off the ropes with a drop kick. Sheamus then fights back with 2 rope kicks and a razor's edge and pins him for the 3. He then heads out of the ring and grabs a pipe, and then he whacks Kofi over the head with it. Triple H is then seen stomping backstage. There's a hilarious sign in the crowd that says Ronald McDonald. Sheamus then gets on the mic to make fun of Shawn Michaels and point out that it only took him 6 months to win his first world title. Sheamus says that he's still sulking about losing to Triple H at WrestleMania. He also makes fun of Triple H for crying last week. This brings out Triple H, who's a little bit wary to get in the ring at first while Sheamus is wielding a pipe. The game then pulls out a sledgehammer and smacks Sheamus in the stomach with it. Triple H goes for it again and Sheamus dodges and escapes through the crowd. The game then calls him a silly Irishman and stomps off. Apparently it's a dress to impress battle royal with all the divas up next. Just like every week, all the divas in the same match. The winner of this match will get a title shot against Maryse. Maryse is on commentary for this match, and this is the highlight. Maryse says that Kelly looks like she's from the 80s and looks like she wants to go to a school prom. She also says that Gail Kim looks like a peacock. This is actually quite entertaining. The divas take turns walking out and then Maryse rips them to shreds. It's like when Scott Steiner was an announcer on TNA. She says that Eve Torres is the worst of the night and laughs about how bad she looks. This match is just a battle royal, but they don't need to go over the top rope. Kelly eliminates 2 divas at once, including Gail Kim. It comes down to Eve Torres, Jillian and Alicia, who team up on Eve. Alicia then makes a mistake and is thrown out. Alicia then tries to pull Eve out of the ring, and Jillian thinks she's been eliminated, but she actually hasn't, and throws her out to win the match. To be fair, Eve has been booked consistently during this series. She normally wins her matches, it's just that the matches are terrible. At least Maryse on commentary made this hilarious. Next up, there's a hype promo about how good David Otunga is. He says he's a combination of The Rock, Triple H, and John Cena. Can't say that with a straight face. He then calls himself the It Factor. Bobby Roode stole his gimmick. He's then backstage with some goons talking about how good he is. One of them looks like just incredible. Apparently David Otunga is such a star that they've made him an entire bowl of green M&Ms. Santina Morella then interrupts and asks where the A-Team is at, and starts doing impressions of Mr. T. Hornswoggle is then shown eating the M&Ms, and then the goons all chase him away. Embarrassing. Let's switch back to TNA. Back on TNA, the ladder match is up next. Good, I won't need to keep drinking for a while. The winner of this match will be the one who retrieves the key for the cage at Lockdown. Lots of keys on this show tonight. Anderson comes out first. He's been feuding with Angle for a couple of months at this point, and it's been extremely personal, with Anderson attacking Kurt Angle with his Warrior medal and bloodying him on several occasions. Angle comes out and he looks really ready. This is going to be a good one, folks. Anderson brings the ladder into the match early on and suplexes Kurt back first onto the ladder. He then realises Angle isn't hurt enough yet and tries to throw Angle onto the ladder again, but Angle reverses it into an overhead belly to belly onto the ladder. Damn. Angle and Anderson start fighting around the ladder, and Anderson pushes it into Kurt's head. Taz says you've got to be violent in a ladder match. Yeah, thank you, Captain Obvious. Anderson tries to climb the ladder, but Angle catches him with the Angle slam. It looks like this one's over. Angle climbs this ladder like he's been in a 30-minute match, and this allows Anderson to recover and push Kurt off the ladder and over the top rope. The crowd are swearing so loudly here that the production crew has to mute them. Back in the ring, Anderson has almost secured the key, but then Angle flies out of nowhere with a missile dropkick into Anderson. Kurt then drags Anderson on top of the ladder. He beats him down and spits in his face. Man, this feud is brutal. Angle then climbs onto the top rope, and wow! Angle hits a moonsault onto Anderson on top of the ladder. Beautiful. Kurt then throws Anderson into the ring post. The camera slowly pans to show Mr. Anderson spotting Kurt's Warrior medal. In the meantime, Kurt Angle is climbing the ladder. Anderson runs up behind him and starts choking him out with the Warrior medal. He still manages to keep climbing the ladder, but he's turning purple from the pain and lack of oxygen. Eventually, Kurt Angle passes out and falls from the ladder. Anderson scrambles up to the top of the ladder to grab the key and win the match. Wow, that match wouldn't have looked out of place on a pay-per-view. Anderson now has the advantage at lockdown. As Anderson's walking off, he shows off the key. It's attached to a piece of wood that says Cage Key on it. Gee, thanks for that. Anderson walks off and celebrates. Backstage, Jeremy Borash is interviewing Hulk Hogan about everything that Bischoff did on TV last week. Hogan refuses to talk about it, and then Bubba the Love Sponge walks up. Hogan asks Bubba why he's hanging around with the band. Hogan says that he brought Bubba the Love Sponge into TNA to help them out. How is this fat greaseball supposed to help TNA? This is ridiculous. I'm drinking for that. Bubba the Love Sponge says that he's enjoying hanging around with the band much more than Hulk Hogan. Jay Lethal then walks up, talking about the Hogan powers. And Hogan looks like he can't wait for Jay Lethal to stop annoying him. Let's drink and switch back to Raw.